Hey guys, MrPokke here, and today for the Quadra Zero Cycle, we are finally gonna be taking a look at Cerydra, right, the upcoming Wind Harmony. And for this particular Zero Cycles that we're gonna be doing over here, I basically did two separate variations for Anaxa as well as Phainon, with their respective investments in terms of cost, right? And I think a lot of you guys have brought up to me in my previous Zero Cycles to try to keep things as relatable as possible. So I figured, why not just keep it one of, if not the most relatable that I've ever done. So we're gonna start off from the lowest to the highest cost of investments, so to also breaking down to you guys exactly what sort of things can you guys expect if you're gonna be using Cerydra alongside with your respective amounts of investments, be it is gonna be E0, E1, E2. For mainly at this time, we are gonna be taking a look at Phainon as well as Anaxa. I'm pretty sure you could try running out with Archer, but I would say that generally speaking, Cerydra would see to stand the most amount of benefits for Phainon as well as Anaxa, right? Whether or not she's gonna be that suitable for other of the DPSs, whether she's gonna be a best in slot, that's pretty much up for you guys to discuss. But for right now, from what I've tested, Anaxa as well as Phainon, these two over here, they do stand the highest to gain when you're going to be running Cerydra, especially when you're talking about a sustainless runs, because holy shit, the amount of damage that I'm going to be seeing this Anaxa do with Cerydra is absolutely insane, right? So without further ado, let's just jump into the very first Zero Cycle, and that is going to be featuring our Anaxa first. If you guys want to take a closer look for Cerydra herself, please feel free to check out this guide over here, where I'm going to be explaining more in depth for the mechanics. Alright, we're just going to immediately jump into our Zero Cycle. This time is going to be doing with Anaxa, Cerydra, Sunday as RMC. The cost is gonna be as listed on this screen over here, and that's gonna be a E0 S0 Anaxa, E0 S0 Cerydra, E0 S0 Sunday, as well as a E6 S0 Mimi. We're running the Herda light cone over here, right? So everybody here did not have that Cylinder light cone. I'm gonna be running Cerydra with the free event light cone. Sunday is gonna be running it with the Bronya Cylinder light cone, and Anaxa is gonna be also running the free event light cone, right? So I try to keep this as low cost as possible. So for this particular Zero Cycle, the entire gimmick is essentially to try and reduce the amount of damage on dealing with these two files, to try and establish a little bit more skill points to go into the second wave, while maintaining my Anaxa to not waste a single action. As you can see over here, timing Anaxa's advance alongside with Mimi at 99%, which is gonna be doing a very nice combination. Going only for the basic attack doesn't really matter, and the moment his turn begins, he's gonna be able to activate the ultimate, which means Automatron is not gonna be go into Ascension mode. Right now, we're gonna be getting the additional hits. Looking over here, I am only gonna be doing my basic, and I'm not using my skill, and the reason for that is because I actually do not want my team to deal too much damage. And yes, this is with a full E0 S0 team, and if you deal too much damage, it means that you could not generate enough charge, enough skill points, and energy for the next wave. So I want to try to store this as much as humanly possible. So we're only gonna be going for basic, and we are already dealing 368,000 for the single bounce. Sunday is gonna give me the skill, and once again, I am not activating my Sunday's ultimate. I am also not using my Anaxa skill, because like I mentioned, I want to try to mitigate this as much as I can, right? So now we're gonna be flying into this over here, going for the bounce. That's gonna be a whopping 1.05 million damage, completely unbuffed, with absolutely no buffs from Sunday whatsoever, except for the crit rate buff. And you can see Wolf is gonna be down to the roughly last 20%, and at this point, it's gonna be where you start to conserve a little bit more skill points, as well as a little bit more charge over here. So we're gonna go in with maximum 5 skill points. It's gonna hit, doesn't really matter whatsoever, it's gonna be completely fine. Now that this turn is going to begin, I'm actually not gonna activate my Cerydra's ultimate, because I want to save it for the next wave, trying to store this as much as possible to get to 8 out of 6 stacks for Mr. Anaxa. And over here, I'm gonna continuously cast out basic attack. Sunday is gonna give one final buff over here, and I know for a goddamn fact this final skill is gonna give us just enough to get rid of the wolf. Now, in another scenario is you could activate your Anaxa ultimate with a Sunday ultimate, then use a skill, and then this second skill can actually bounce into the second wave. But I try to be a little bit conservative, because I really wanted to implant Anaxa's ultimate for the second wave immediately to guarantee our follow-up skills when we're going to be getting quite a lot of value over here. You can see over here, this is going to be immediately at a 5 out of 6, and the moment Cerydra casts her ultimate, as well as Sunday giving the buff to Anaxa, we are going to be at a 7 out of 6, and then finally she's going to cast her skill onto Anaxa, and that is going to be at an 8 out of 6. And this 8 out of 6 is very important to get us perfect number of stacks required for the charge for the duplicate skill. Mimi is gonna go for the out over there, and notice over the point, I am not going to be activating my skill because you are gonna see every single time Anaxa casts his skill, whether his normal skill, his duplicate skill, his follow-up skill, it is gonna give Mimi 3%, 4%, 3%, 4%. Like, it goes on a very, very, very fast pace. And the last thing you want to do is to waste this action value advance from Mimi. So I'm only gonna be going for the base at 75. And keep in mind, look at how fast this charge for Mimi stacks on, which is why I believe for Cerydra and Anaxa, Mimi is a very, very strong contender because you get so much charge from Mimi to get the additional 100% action value advance as well as the true damage outcome. So, okay, 355,000 into 298,000 into 326,000 into 286, and this is gonna bring us all the way up to 87%. And now that Sunday is gonna give us one more buff, we're gonna do the exact same thing again. Activate our Anaxa's ultimate. Should have activated a little bit earlier to get a little bit more energy, but it is what it is. And now you're gonna see the moment we let go of our skill, which is gonna be a double skill, we are gonna be just barely enough at 99% charge. So if you are gonna be wasting the charge just now with a skill, then it's gonna lead to a duplicated action, which means I'm wasting quite a decent chunk of action value over here. And now Mimi is gonna go for the punch. 100% action value advance brings my Anaxa up a little bit higher. And now you can see, unfortunately, because it was 99%, I could have theoretically squeezed out one more action right before Sunday, but because it was a little bit slow, missing that 1%, but it is what it is. You can see that we still have a lot of damage to finish this run regardless. The perfect scenario was just now we actually hit 100%, so Anaxa will actually be in front of Sunday in the action value bar, but it is what it is, completely fine. And you're gonna see over here, the amount of bounce damage is gonna be absolutely insane. 500,000, 394, 341, and finally into 341, down to the last 29%. Now, keep in mind, this point is going to be where you need to pray a little bit for the RNG, because if Savrock hits your Sunday, the run is over, because you actually need Sunday to bring up your Anaxa one last time to get this run over and done with. I actually tried to use the Anaxa Ultimate Disrupt. Unfortunately, Savrock does have crowd control rest, which means he's not going to be affected by Anaxa's ultimate. Luckily for us, he did not hit Anaxa over here, so he went for the Mimi. Then our Cerydra is going to go for one final charge on Anaxa. That's going to give me 3 out of 6. Mimi is going to go for the basic, and this is going to be Sunday pulling us Anaxa. You can see it perfectly times in at this exact moment, where once we activate our ultimate, it's gonna be 5 out of 6. And because Anaxa skills count as 2 separate charges, the very first skill will proc to 6 out of 6, activate Cerydra's duplicate skill, and that is when our follow-up is gonna activate over here, giving us the perfect 0 cycle. Right, it couldn't be more perfect than this. So very, very smooth over here. And this is gonna be the Reddit investment we did for the Anaxa. E0 S0 at 117 speed. So after Cerydra speed buff, we are gonna be outspinning our 134 speed Sunday at E0 S0. Cerydra going for the normal speed build with the event Lycone, Luxaka, and 4P Sekros. Sunday 134 build with Bronya's signature Lycone 1 as the E0 S0, and the Mimi given a decent amount of speed, as well as the 4-piece pass by for a little bit more additional skill points, as well as the 2-piece vomit to guarantee extra action with the Herda Star Lycone. Right, so that is gonna be our 3-cost Anaxa 0 cycle against MOC 12 Savrock. Now this next video over here, we are gonna be featuring Cerydra with our Phainon, and this is pretty much, I believe, one of the lowest cost 0 cycle I've ever done on my entire showcase for creator early access, because we are in fact using a 2-cost 0 cycle. Everyone here is gonna be at E0 with E0 S0 Phainon, E0 S0 Cerydra. I do want to mention that Bronya over here is actually gonna be activating the E2. First of all, the E2 is not needed, right? You only really want an E1. The E1's additional skill point will be very, very important with the signature Lycone, and then this is gonna be our RMC. Right? Whether or not Bronya is gonna consider as a cost, I will give it up to you guys depending on how lucky you are with your 50/50s. But to me, I'm just gonna count as 2 costs. You know, if you want to cancel me, so be it. But I think this was a very, very nice 0-0 cycle I managed to pull on my hand. For Final, we are gonna be running the 4th and Aeon. Events Lycone is still gonna be on Cerydra just like just now, right? So Bronya is gonna go for the base there, and this is gonna be very important. So I do want to point out this particular part, which is if you are going to be running Cerydra with Bronya as the supplement instead of Sunday, you want to run a hyper speed Bronya. So what essentially hyper speed Bronya is going to be doing, running the 2-piece Vomit, is that after her basic attack, she is able to essentially let back right behind Phainon immediately, because you do not want your Bronya to cast your skill, because what is going to happen is that it will coincide with Mimi's additional 100% action value. So what you want to do here is essentially use your Bronya's basic attack to give us all the way up to 96% charge. And you can see over here, what is gonna happen is you are gonna get hit, doesn't really matter that much. Going in for the additional charge is sort of a must. We're getting dangerously low here, but still gonna be completely fine. And this is the perfect moment where after Phainon lets go of his first skill, Mimi gets 100% to pull my Phainon up immediately. And then after this happens, we can then proceed back on with the normal Bronya rotations, getting the buffs and transforming Phainon into the ultimate Castellana mode, right? So this is gonna be as is. You really need a base with Bronya over here with hyper speed, gets the additional true damage, and at this point you can sort of just let go. Doesn't really matter that much anymore. Gets a little bit more of the charge from RMC. Phainon is gonna go in for the skill to deal a little bit more damage, and then Mimi is just gonna go for the base on this guy over here. Then Bronya is gonna finally pull up a Phainon, activating our additional skill one more hit, and this is where it's extremely important, right? So the main differential here, if you're gonna be running a E0S0 Phainon compared to a E0S1 Phainon, is that you want to store at least 2 actions before your enhanced skill instead of the 1 action with the enhanced skill. So what is gonna happen, because you're running E0S0 Phainon, the lack of base speed means that your change, your ultimate form, is actually gonna be a little bit too slow, which means you need to store a little bit more at Aventurine's phase to instantly transform him back and then get the additional turn afterwards, right? So you really don't want to deal too much damage. So Bronya is gonna let go of the out over here, Cerydra lets go of her out, and this is gonna be at a perfect 14 stacks, activate our transformation, and then we are gonna go in. So we are actually letting go of our enhanced skill right now, but you do not want to deal so much damage to the point where you kill them with the next basic. You actually want to stay in here 3 actions minimum on the very first wave. So this is the first action when we let go of our enhanced skill, then 1 million into another duplicate skill, that's gonna be another 1 million. And now this is extremely important. If you let go of your basic attack here and this thing dies, the run is over, because this transformation, this 152 action value, it is actually gonna be too slow at Aventurine's wave. So you actually need to store for 2 final actions here at E0S0, and then you can actually deal enough damage for the transformation to be within Aventurine's phase change, right? So this is where he's gonna hit us, doesn't really matter, and we pop him off from this basic attack. So you can see we let go of the change, and right here, right, you can see right here, this 102 action value remaining is because we actually stored for 3 total actions on wave 1 at E0S0 Phainon. If you are going to be running E0S1, 2 actions is okay, but because it's E0S0, you really need to reduce the number of damage and let go of 3 actions in wave 1. Extremely important, right? Rest of the stuff here is actually completely normal. You don't really have too much of a depth going on. Activating your enhanced skill when you hit the stacks, going for the basic. Now that you have the duplicate skill, you're just going to wait a little bit over here. Pop this in, and because we do have the number of charge from Cerydra, activating 1 duplicate into another original skill, this will instantly bring us into phase 2, transforming Aventurine on his second phase. And over here, you do want to let go of your counter skill to pull him up so that he can activate his dice change, because if he activates for the rest of your allies, they are pretty much gonna die, right? So you want to turn it up to intentionally bring you into the Aventurine's dice change. Phainon is gonna follow up with the follow-up attack, which means it's gonna be guaranteed unless you roll like 4 ones over here, then you know, I don't really know what to say. And then he's gonna change over here. This also does not do any damage, so unless you roll 4 ones 2 times back to back, there's no way you don't get a full ultimate, right? So we're gonna let go of this, gets another roll of dice, and you can see over here, because when Phainon exited his ultimate stage, remember Phainon's traits for ultimate, you actually give your team an additional 15% speed buff, which is the exact number of actions that are required to barely squeeze us, my entire team, within Aventurine's current phase, right? Because of the additional speed buff once Phainon exits ultimate, pulling up my entire team within this action value. This is extremely important. After you exit the ultimate, you can see my entire team got pushed up almost as if we had a built-in Dungeons Dance, but this is not Dungeons Dance. It is pretty much just the additional speed buff that we're gonna be when Phainon exits the ultimate stage, right? So the rest of the run over here is gonna be as is. We are definitely gonna be getting a full ultimate of Phainon because of the dice mechanics, but what I essentially want to do is make sure that my Phainon tries to get as many of the charge here as possible before he's going to transform. Right? Unfortunately, over here, my Cerydra almost dies. Luckily for us, that did not happen, so we're going to be going for a skill, activating 100% action very advanced for me to pull my Phainon up again, getting a little bit more of a bounce over here, going for another skill, and Bronya is finally going to let go of 1 last skill over here to pull back up my Phainon. Unfortunately, the additional skill point did not trigger, so I'm just going to be going for the basic attack, gets the Cerydra ultimate hit 7 out of 6, Phainon transforms, and that's going to give us us the exact number, maybe one charge a little bit excessive for us to hit the duplicate skill. So double skill flies in over here for the perfect 0 cycle at E0 S0 Phainon as well as E0 S0 Cerydra. So one enhanced skill, that's a duplicate, and this is gonna be one last meter strike, extremely satisfying for a 2-cost 0 cycle against Aventry. So this is gonna be the build over here. You can see, right, we are gonna be rocking our E0 S0 Phainon on 106 speed, 92% crit rate. Because of Mimi's additional 10%, it is gonna be 100% crit rate, no issues whatsoever. That's gonna be E0 S0, and then Cerydra is gonna be the exact same build as the previous Cerydra. We had Duns here, which is honestly it did absolutely fucking nothing because we didn't even activate our Duns to transform us to the next wave. So don't even worry about it. The reason why I ran Duns over here instead of the event icon is that, like I mentioned, for the wave 1, you do not want to deal too much damage because you need to at least have 3 actions on wave 1 so that you can actually transform by Aventry's wave 2. What I noticed was that when I gave Cerydra the event icon, we actually dealt too much damage, so my Phainon actually got rid of wave 1 in 2 actions, which means I could not let go of the transformation change within the next wave in Aventry. So I actually lowered down Cerydra's damage by giving her Duns, but this Duns is basically completely worthless because it was not active at all whatsoever, but the next phase change for Aventry, right? So this was literally just to reduce the amount of damage we're going to be doing over here. And then finally, Bronya over here is going to be rocking the E2 S1. Where else the cost is going to be? E2 doesn't change anything, but the E1 additional skill point is going to be quite important because you see, we actually almost basically ran out of skill points, and this is going to be the exact same RMC that we ran for the very first wave, right? So that is going to be our build for our 2-cost Phainon 0 cycle. Now, this 0 cycle for the next couple of showcase, this is going to be with the next style or the first half against the next MOC, which is Gepard, and the next 0 cycle, which is the last 0 cycle, is going to be against Lygus featuring Phainon, right? So for this one, we basically went for additional vertical investments. So what I want to do for this 0 cycle was to truly see the power of stacking on defense reduction. So what we have over here is a E0 S1 Anaxa, E1 S1 Cerydra, E1 S1 Sunday, right? For the additional items, which gives us the additional defense reduction. We are also going to be equipping our Anaxa here with the 4-piece Quantum because we implant our Quantum winners, which means you're also going to be getting an additional 20% defense reduction. Combine that with Anaxa signature Lycon as well as Trace, we are looking at almost pretty much 100% defense reduction, right? Especially once we actually activate our enhanced skill, the duplicate skill, that is definitely going to be 100%. Now, one key thing to note over here for this Memory of Chaos, which is going to be coming for the next rotation, is that the Manta rays are extremely annoying, right? Because the mechanic for this Manta ray is that you can see this count over here, the 2 out of 5. The moment this thing says 5 out of 5, it will give bro a 100% action value advance. Your job as the player is that you want to prevent this from happening, from actually getting rid of this additional action value advance by making it take place during your turn, right? If, for example, this is still Anaxa's turn, and once you reach 5 out of 5, if you can break him with Anaxa, he actually still gets pushed way the fuck back down. Then Sunday can pull up your Anaxa again, and the cycle sort of just repeats by itself, right? So this Manta rate is extremely annoying. So you really need a time. How many times are you hitting this guy to make sure this guy transforms during your turn and not his turn, right? So they can get the additional action. So you can see over here, this is gonna lead us to the 4 out of 5. Cerydra activates our additional duplicate over here. So you can see this is where I'll activate my Sunday ultimate, and then I will let go of my Cerydra ultimate. So like I mentioned, you want to make him reach 5 out of 5 during his turn, right? So now that Cerydra activates her ultimate 8 out of 6, you see this action very advanced is going to take place, but because it's during my Anaxa turn, it is still going to allow me to take my action. And because we do have the 8 out of 6, you basically want to burst down this guy as fast as humanly possible, right? So what happens over here, you either kill him right here, but if you cannot kill him, your ultimate will be up and hopefully deal enough toughness bar damage to basically break bro and allow you to take another action, right? So I basically went for the all-in approach, going for the skill on this guy, another skill and another skill, 580k, 580k, 400k, and 400k. And unfortunately, that is still so beefy that he did not die. So we're gonna be going in for ultimate here to essentially break bro all the way back down. Alright, so we're gonna break him, but unfortunately, because it is gonna be on his turn at his 5 out of 5, what I should have done here, right? What I should have done is to let my RMC hit him first, let him action very advanced, and then I break Anaxa. So it's a little bit more of a piloting mistake on my end, but luckily for us, because he's basically almost dead, it is not gonna be that big of a deal over here where it's gonna hit our team, deal a little more damage, it's gonna be fine. And then over here, we're just gonna, because they're all gonna be extremely low, we are just gonna go ahead and slam with our ultimate, getting a lot of charge for our Mimi, going for a little bit of a basic attack. Then the moment he unfreezes, he's not gonna take action, so it's still gonna be my turn, right? Then Cerydra is gonna give my Anaxa the additional value. Now, here is where he summons the goldfish, which can be a little bit scary. So ideally, he should have died here, right? He should have died here. Then it wouldn't be a deal anymore. He summons, he activates his gift, but because he is so low, I think we can basically still get our way through. So you can see over here, we do need to get this hit over here on our team, which is going to be a little bit scary. But once Sunday pulls out my Anaxa, and my Anaxa, unfortunately, it actually clashed with Mimi. So they basically wasted an extra turn. It is what it is. But I can still deal enough damage to get rid of everyone here, right? So the first burst kills the other guy, gets a duplicate skill, and this thing is going to die. And then we are going to be going on into wave 2. But the most important thing against this guy is the Manta Ray is the biggest problem. So you want to prevent him from getting the extra turn during his turn, right? Ideally, as much as possible, let him get the action very advanced during your turn so they can activate like any sort of break to push him back down, right? So this is going to be fine. A little bit sloppy on my end, I can say so myself, but it's still going to be okay because we do get 6 out of 6, and this will instantly duplicate crosswave because I mentioned Cerydra's duplicate skill actually goes crosswave, and because it's on the Anaxa, we actually get to bounce at another time over here. This will allow my Anaxa to basically implant a weakness immediately so that our Cerydra is going to be at 0 out of 6, and once again, the exact same Manta Ray is going to be happening over here. So you really do not want to let him take the additional action very advanced unless it's going to be your turn, right? So what I'm gonna do, you can see over here, this is 3 out of 5. The next step is gonna be my RMC into my Anaxa, and because my Anaxa skill actually bounces twice, what I'm gonna do is give my Anaxa the additional step from Cerydra so that we can reach 3 out of 6. Then my RMC is gonna take his turn, right? So this is gonna be 3 out of 6. We are gonna hit Gepard, and this is gonna remain at a 3 out of 5 over here. And this is when Anaxa, you want to basic attack Gepard because your basic on Gepard will not constitute as an action for the Manta Ray, right? So once the first basic lands on Gepard, the next bounce will definitely hit the Manta Ray, but because he's at 4 out of 5, he is not going to action very advanced, and that's when you will pull back up with a Sunday to let Anaxa take another action, right? So we take one on Gepard, bounces, that's going to be 4 out of 5. Sunday gives us the additional action very advanced, gives us the additional ultimate, and because we are going to be going for the double skill over here, even if bro transforms right now, I can instantly prevent him from dealing too much damage because we have our ultimate backup immediately. So this is where I basically went for the all-in against the Manta Ray, because the moment the Manta Ray dies, Gepard himself is not that big of a problem, right? So we're gonna go for the basic ones, get the additional action very advanced. This is gonna be fine. So we're gonna continuously do on our booms, and he actually almost dies here. So I was praying to God that my ultimate actually kills the Manta Ray, which I believe it did because it was extremely low. So we are instantly okay. There we go. So we actually got rid of the Manta Ray within the entire burst rotation for next over here. Unfortunately, I want to just be completely transparent. If you're gonna be running a full E0 team over here with the current relics I have on this account, it is not going to be possible, right? The Manta Ray wouldn't die, and then he's going to be dealing quite a bit of damage to your team, which is going to be a little bit troublesome. Everything else for the rest of the run is going to be very straightforward. We get the additional charge from Mimi. Cerydra is going to continuously spam our skill onto Anaxa, and Anaxa is going to be one speed go Sunday, so we're going to be getting the additional turn from Mimi, gives us additional action very advanced, skill, and Gepard is pretty much going to die here. He's not even going to hit us, and bada boom. Hopefully, I was thinking that I can get a, I can get a kill here, but some things just never change, and yep, it is what it is, right? But it doesn't matter. Gepard comes back in, he hits us once, won't really die too much, 321 HP, gets a shield, which is completely irrelevant. Sunday pulls us up, and then Anaxa is gonna get us the 0 cycle over here, right? So you're gonna see our investment over here. So this is gonna be the cost: E0 S1 Anaxa on 4-piece Quantum, E1 S1 Cerydra, which is gonna be on this setup over here, exact same, and then E1 S1 Sunday with the exact same RNC with higher amount of speed with the 4-piece pass bar, right? So that's gonna be our less relatable Anaxa Cerydra 0 cycle against next MOC12 Gepard. Now this is gonna be our last 0 cycle for today's showcase, and it is pretty much to just demonstrate the power of our E2 Phainon, right? So this is gonna be ran with a E2 Phainon, still running E0 Cerydra with a E0 Sunday as well as the RMC, but I kind of just want to show you guys to what extent are we gonna be getting the benefit for Cerydra for a E2 Phainon, and you're gonna be seeing essentially what's gonna happen over here. The rotation of Phainon is gonna be the exact same when we're running with Sunday. For that, please kindly check out our Phainon guide from previously, right? Always activate our Sunday, get this over here. The moment Phainon lets go of his skill, then Mimi is gonna pull us back up, and then this is gonna be 100% action very advanced. 10 out of 10, and then once we get this is gonna be 12 out of 10. Perfect time. Activate Cerydra ultimate for 6 out of 6, and then activate Phainon's transformation for 12 out of 12, right? Now at this particular point over here, I actually wanted to stall a little bit because, like I mentioned, you do not want to kill them too quickly, otherwise the transformation will not happen in the same way, right? The exact same thing happened for my previous exploration, just like Aventurine. Because in this case we do have our signature light cone, you just need to store one action, and that's gonna be good enough. So I went for the base attack against the against the monkey. He's gonna hit us, doesn't really matter. And then because we have E2 Phainon as well as a duplicate, we are just gonna let go of this enhanced skill. 1.2 million. Let's go of this AoE, and then the mobs are gonna respawn. Doesn't matter. Then we get another duplicate skill flying down. Bada boom, bada bang, bada bang. Another 1.2 million. Now, the unfortunate thing for this over here is because we already killed him right here with our duplicate skill into his original skill, we actually do not gain the action, extra action, because everybody died, right? So ideally what would have happened is actually you can go for one more basic, which would have allowed me to get 5 out of 4. So this E2 Phainon actually did not serve a very big purpose for this particular wave 1, right? Then we're going to be going into Lygus. We have to go for the basic attack to get the additional stacks for my enhanced skill, and then we're going to let go of enhanced skill, and this is where our E2 Phainon actually procced for the first time, getting the extra action to go back in for the basic again. Pull this guy back up. He's gonna summon his goons. It is what it is. And then now we're gonna be still at 3 out of 4, continuously using our base attack. Everything else here is just very, very straightforward against Lygus himself. He's gonna do the action very advanced. Really doesn't concern us whatsoever. And now because we are gonna be at 5 out of 4, activates our Cerydra, activates our E2 Phainon. So that's our first enhanced skill, and then our second enhanced skill, and then our third, not enhanced skill, but basically our third turn, right? So you basically take 2 enhanced skill and 1 additional action of Phainon, which means that entire rotation for an E2 Phainon with Cerydra is going to be a lot faster. But generally speaking, because if you are going to be dealing a little bit too much damage, especially for wave 1, the impact for Cerydra in the E2 Phainon is not going to be as substantial, because what E2 Phainon over here essentially does is just give you the extra turn to make sure you can get the additional enhanced skills for the 6 out of 6 stacks. But unfortunately for Cerydra, the amount of charge we are going to be getting is unable to keep up with our additional action value advances for the enhanced skill, which means that even though we do get the extra actions, it would not exactly match up with Cerydra, because it's still going to be down to the same. It's actually 1 additional stack is not going to be enough to duplicate 1 more enhanced skill, right? So that's the biggest issue over here. But the damage amplification is still going to be very, very nice. We're going to pull our Lygus back up because I do want to gain the additional energy, right? So this is going to be where he pulls myself, and we go for the full slam, and then this is going to be a free ultimate. We're going to change form, instantly getting back us into 15 stacks. So I'm not even going to wait at all. I will instantly activate my ultimate, instantly just going back into this thingy. And now that we actually will take massive damage, doesn't really matter, because once we activate enhanced skill, this will then slam all the way back in, and then we get another action, goes for the basic, and then once these 2 minions spawn, he is going to transform phase, which is not going to concern us whatsoever, because we are already at 5 out of 4, right? So this 5 out of 4, because we do have E2 Phainon, we are going to be dealing very, very nice against this like pure fission-ish kind of boss here. First wave gets rid of pretty much everything over here, and then the next wave, because we are going to be at a 6 out of 6 at this particular point, we are going to wrap up this game at this exact moment. He gets Witness Broken, doesn't matter. So basic followed by this, and then 1 more enhanced skill is gonna get us the 5 out of 4, and that is gonna wrap up again. Very, very close for his 0 cycle running this E2 S1 Phainon. But you can see over here, we actually deal way too much damage. I'm pretty sure this would have 100% been doable with the E0 Phainon as well, but I kind of just want to see for myself personally what was a benefit for a Cerydra to a E2 Phainon. So you can see 0 cycling Lygus with the extra turn, didn't even make use of it whatsoever, right? So that is pretty much it for our E2 Phainon 0 cycle with a E0 Cerydra. The setup is gonna be as shown over here. E2 S1 Phainon, 125 speed at 0 speed from Cerydra is gonna put us above Sunday. Cerydra E0 S1 as shown over here. Sunday also E0 S1, the exact same from previously, and then this is also gonna be the same RMC that we used for our first half. With that, we have come to the end of our Cerydra's Quadra 0 cycle. Frankly speaking, it's mainly just like I mentioned, mainly for Phainon as well as Anaxa. And I personally believe that if you're looking for the highest amount of vertical investment as well as damage upgrade, Phainon and Anaxa, they're pretty much one of the biggest contenders. Archer can definitely be doable as well, but I'm a little bit more skeptical because you do really want to have Sparkle with Archer still, and I think his performance right now in this current MOC is definitely going to be buff, especially if you compare to Anaxa and Phainon, which they're all going to be skill damage dealing DPS, right? So these two are going to be my personal favorites. Let me know what you guys think of Cerydra below. Do you still think she's going to be a skip? Is she a pull? Is she going to add value to her account, etc, right? So word of the day is going to be cute Tyrant, because I think the title of this video is gonna be my Tyrant can't be discount. So very nice. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, join Twitter, join our page for all anime reviews. Use code POKE for 10% off gamer subs. All the best for guys. Boost out. See you guys next time.